Is the rookie running back enough to help Big Ben revitalize the offense?
No.
Wow.
Here's where I'll go with this. Najee Harris has the ability to have success, and I think he can have an amazing career in Pittsburgh. He has a very similar style to our vintage view of Le'Veon Bell. Very smooth, can catch the ball, very versatile, great balance, great acceleration. I mean, he's a complete back. Not super big in size, but very effective in his movement. Very deliberate with his movements, great with pacing. I mean, he does a lot of great things. I saw him do some things that you just don't see very many backs do when I was watching him play for Alabama. The question mark here isn't if Najee can do it. The question mark is if their offensive line can do it. They lose DeCastro. They lose Pouncey. They got to replace those guys. Those are not just positions that you have to replace. Those are pillars and monuments of that offensive line and for that franchise that they have to replace. Then you have someone in Ben Roethlisberger who is really at the end of his career and is trying to leave on a high note with what's going on with him. If I can make what's good for the goose, I can make what's good for the gander. I said, and we shows past, that I felt like Russell Wilson would be a major reason as to why the Seattle Seahawks come up short, because he's going to be pressing too hard for some of the accolades that he has not received during the course of his career. I think that Big Ben is going to be worse than Russell Wilson in this attempt to try to garner the respect and garner the admiration of what he did when he was winning so many games early on in his career at a point in time of his career where I don't see that being realistic. I think he's going to push a little too hard. I think that there are going to be a lot of mistakes that are made just because you're trying to make something out of nothing. They could live in what it is that they're supposed to be as a unit, but I don't see that happening, and I think that it's going to be very difficult in the AFC North for Najee Harris as a rookie under these circumstances to be able to flourish, let alone be the guy that carries the offense on his shoulders.
Yeah, look, I like Harris a lot for all the reasons you said, what we saw at Alabama. And the question is the offensive line. They'll probably have, 5 new starters. All right, but maybe Mike Tomlin, maybe that staff can make that offensive line fairly good, serviceable. I think the Steelers are clearly the third team in that division, behind Cleveland and Baltimore. But I think as the third team in that division, they could fight for a playoff spot. And to do that, they are going to need Najee Harris to run the ball well. What I feel like since Le'Veon Bell left, I think they've had running backs who could do some things with a really strong offensive line. James Conner, that first year after Bell left, played pretty well. But they couldn't do anything when the line wasn't great. And I think Harris is the type of back, every running back needs a good offensive line. But I don't think he needs huge holes. He's a guy that can break tackles. He's a guy that does have a little bit of wiggle and can make guys miss. He's not a game breaker with his speed. He's not the fastest guy in the world at that position, but I do think he can make guys miss and break tackles. And if that should be enough to make the running game better. Remember last year, they were dead last in rushing. And Ben, at 38 years old last year, had to throw the football more than he ever has in his entire career except for one season. So if Harris can bring a little bit of balance, and they want to because that's Pittsburgh's identity their entire career.
Of course.
If he can bring a little bit of balance to the running game and improvement to the running game with the good receiving core, with Ben, I think, trying to prove something in his last year, I think they can be better offensively than they were last year.
Wow.
They're not going to be 12 and
undefeated.
They're going to be 12 and 4.
They went 1-5 down the stretch.
They're not going to be 12 and 4.
Ben was terrible. Okay, a couple things here. First of all, 3 offensive linemen are gone. And yes, they were great running the ball with Le'Veon Bell a few years back, but all the linemen were younger. By all accounts in camp, the Steelers are going to start a third-round rookie at center in front of Ben Roethlisberger, okay? I know there's all this excitement. Oh, we got Harris coming out of Alabama. You guys do realize that the Steelers, threw 12% of their passes to running backs last year, fewest in the NFL. Okay? They don't do screen passes to running backs. They throw them to wide receivers because Ben's the problem. I mean, he's just so immobile at 39 years old. And, oh, by the way, they have a new offensive coordinator because the offense was so bad and predictable down the stretch that they cratered, and Ben basically got the guy fired. Now, the new guy they brought in was with LSU. He was with Matt Canada is his name. He was with Ogeron at LSU. Some questions about what he wants to do and whether or not that's going to fit with what Ben can do at this advanced stage. Guy took a $5 million pay cut to give it one last shot. I am really out on the Pittsburgh Steelers this year. Two numbers you guys need to know. They were 7-2 in one-score games last year. Very fortuitous. We know historically that flips. They're going to lose some of those. And by the way, the team with the toughest schedule in the NFL this year is the Pittsburgh Steelers.
Well,
it doesn't look good, guys. It does not look good. Go ahead, Broussard. You want to say anything?
Look at you dropping $1 million words. Dropping $1 million words.
Yeah, I know it can make people a little uncomfortable when I'm dropping some big vocabulary words.
Do you know what that means?
Opportunistic, maybe? Something to that
It means
effect.
I'm smart.
Thank you for watching. You can subscribe here to get the latest from the show, and be sure to check out more of the best clips from Undisputed, or go watch a few other segments from our other shows on FS1.